Let's bring in Sourabh Gupta. He's a senior fellow at the Institute for China-America Studies. Sourabh, first your reaction to this call, including the re-signing of their 20-year friendship treaty and amid celebrations this week of the 100th anniversary of the CPC.
Oh, it is very important. You know, China and Russia are Permanent Security Council members. They are two of the biggest and most important countries in the international system. They are neighbors. It is essential that they get on together on good terms, because that's good for them, good for the region, and good for the system. So I think this is very important. And a treaty of good neighborliness and friendship is the pinnacle of where the relationship can go to, frankly.
And this conversation comes after President Putin's meeting with Joe Biden in Geneva just last month. Presidents Xi and Putin also took part in a ceremony on nuclear energy cooperation. So talk to us more about Russia's position here in these recent back and forths between China and the United States.
You know, Russia would like to have a stable Eastern Front. Russia's relations with the countries in Europe and the U.S. has been troubled. You know, Russia was pushed out of what was the G7+1 after the Crimea incident, and Russia would like to have good relations with as many countries as it could, but it is having difficulty with its Western partners. So it's important for Russia to have good relations on the Eastern Front. And Mr. Putin has also tried good relations with Japan, and the relations are on a fairly even keel. So for Mr. Putin, it's important that he, at a time when Russia is not as powerful as it used to be, say, 50 years ago, has as many good relations, especially with neighbors and definitely with big neighbors. And I think China reciprocates that sentiment, because China understands it's growing more powerful, but it does not want to have an antagonistic Russia or an antagonistic anybody who's in your own neighborhood. And so I think from President Xi's perspective also, good China-Russia relations is the foundation for larger outreach to other powers also.
All right, and these two leaders have met several times in person. They have quite a personal relationship. So talk to us about their relations between their two countries. Putin recently said that Moscow and Beijing have developed historic trust and cooperation in all these things: politics, economy, technology, and the military. So talk about that, and then when you see them two together, what they're both facing in regards to the West.
Yes, there's obviously a negative dimension out here in which the two of them get together because there is so much pressure put by the West on them individually. But I would frankly frame that they are seeking good relations, not to deal necessarily with third parties. They see that the two countries are very important countries in their own right, and stable relations always will help that process. On top of that, we have to realize that during the Cold War era, there was a Sino-Soviet alliance, and that alliance did break down, and it taught important lessons to the leaders of both sides. And the most important lesson was that we need suppleness in this relationship, so that there is both an integration of national interest out here, and not just on the basis of politics or ideology. And they have been able to create that multidimensional relationship over these past two decades, I would say even longer than 2 decades. And the most important facet out here has been Russia and China resolving their very complicated boundary dispute. Boundary disputes not easy to solve, and they did that, and that was a stepping stone to deal with other countries. And I hope that other countries will also see this relationship not as a sort of a block format, which it is not, but as a means for deeper engagement with neighbors and with important powers in the system, so that the system itself can be stabilized at a time when it is so much under flux.
All right, all things to consider. Sourabh Gupta, great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.